Goddamn, conversations with legends. Crazy how one day your idols can turn into your brethren. Bitches we severing. Hit up my I don't know the rest of the thing, but Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. This is the third installment in the Pirates of the Caribbean film, and I think this was supposed to be the ending of that trilogy. Yeah, I think this was only supposed to be 3 films long, but as everybody knows, the fifth one comes out this week. At World's End. As you guys should know from my reviews of the last 2 films, I deeply enjoyed the first film. I loved Dead Man's Chest. Dead Man's Chest? That was my shit. So going into At World's End, I'd heard that a lot of people thought this one was shitty. As people do with third installments, they think they're all shitty. And you know, I went into it with a open mind. I was fresh off of the ending of the second film, having me all hype as fuck. And I was definitely prepared for more pirates, more mayhem, more Captain Jack Sparrow. And what I got was a pretty good movie, I gotta say. I really enjoyed this shit. Now, I want to get into the negatives first because they are present. This movie is definitely the most flawed out of the Pirates movies yet. And part of that has to do with the fact that this movie is almost 3 hours long. Now, I'm not saying that this movie is too long. I'm saying that the first half of this movie really doesn't justify why it takes so long to build up. I get it though. They're building up the plots, they're building up the characters and all that stuff. I get it. But the first half of this movie is very dull. It's just dull. There's not a lot going on. And when something does go on, you're kind of sitting there like, why are we spending a lot of time on this though? It doesn't really impact the plot much, which I wouldn't mind if it was a little more entertaining. There's a fight scene, kind of, maybe, not really, in the beginning of this movie with a bunch of dudes from Singapore. And you know what? It's kind of cool, but at the same time, it's kind of not. And when this action scene ends, it's really the thing that puts the question in your head of, wait, what are we doing here? What's the point of this? And it all comes together as the film progresses. And it is cool to be with these characters again, but I have to admit, the first half of this movie, I was kind of looking at my watch like, okay, something can happen now. This movie juggles a shitload of plot points. Every character has his or her own motivations, and there are even a couple of plot points that get brought up just to be dropped. Plot points that I thought were interesting. There's a plot point about a female god being trapped inside a human body and being released, and how when she's released, she's gonna unleash her cruelty, but as soon as she's released, she just kind of, you know, doesn't really do much. And it's like, okay, I guess that was a thing. That was almost as bad as the Quicksilver being Magneto's son plot and X-Men Apocalypse. It was almost as pointless and almost as time wasting. And easily, in the middle of this movie, there is a moment where I feel like they just ran out of ideas, because there's a moment where it feels like every couple seconds somebody betrays somebody else. And I get it. These are all despicable people. They're unlikable people. That's what I like about them. But when we get down to them just kind of saying, I'm not on your side anymore, I'm betraying you, and you're betraying him, and he's betraying her, and she's betraying me, it gets old after the second betrayal. But they just keep on going, and quite frankly, it's not that interesting. Overall, the first half of this movie is, I get it, it builds the plot well, and it's not like boring like I want to go to sleep. It's the kind of boring where it's like, I'm interested, I'm intrigued, but you're not really doing much right here. But this is where I have to get into the positives, because halfway through this movie, it's like the writers remembered, oh yeah, we're supposed to be having fun, and they just click the switch all the way on, and the action kicks up, and the comedy kicks back up, and the quirkiness and the weirdness, and I was definitely pleased. This movie definitely remembers what it is halfway through and gives me a little more than that. There's a lot of great action scenes. The effects in this movie continue to be brilliant. Jack Sparrow continues to be very entertaining. However, it does feel like they're using him a bit much here. Keira Knightley's character and Orlando Bloom's character are definitely a lot more interesting this time around. I said this on the second film too. You know, they're not nearly as forgettable or dull as them or their storylines in the first film. They're very, very interesting this time around. And I fuck with that. There is literally a scene where Captain Barbossa marries them in the middle of an action scene. Like they're like war is going on around them and they get married. See, this is the quirkiness, this is the strangeness, this is the weirdness that I fuck with this movie. Davy Jones continues to be pretty much my favorite character out of all these movies. I love him in this movie. He's very emotional as a character. He's got a lot of depth, but I love how he tries to shrug it off and tries to be this manly pirate. Even when you knock him down a couple of pegs, he still gets back up and he's still like, nah, I still be Davy Jones of the Flying Dutchman. This movie has a couple of twists and turns at the end too that kind of caught me off guard. I'll give it that credit. Overall, I enjoyed this movie. I really do. I can understand why people don't like it. It is a long movie. It does have a lot of complicated plots, but there is something I do have to say though. There are a lot of people out there who you have those comments for this movie. Those kind of comments. Those comments are just like, this is Pirates of the Caribbean. It's not supposed to be that complicated. It's not supposed to be that deep. Can't we just see pirates be pirates? Can't we just see Jack Sparrow go look for some shit? And you know what? I really hate hearing that criticism about films just because a movie has a silly idea or it has silly characters or a silly premise. Why does that mean it can't reach for the stars? Why does that mean it can't reach for more complicated plots, darker themes? Why does that mean it has to remain this really stupid, silly, fun thing? The whole all we want to see argument, the whole nobody wants to see argument, I think is bogus. Instead of saying what you wish you could judge the movie on what it is. And that is something I do. I think this movie is very fun. I think it's very enjoyable. I think it's a satisfying conclusion to this would-be trilogy, if not for 4 and 5. And even though the first half is kind of dull, even though there's a lot of plots going on and it can get a little difficult to follow every now and again, I still think this movie is kick-ass. I think it has a great action, great comedy, really great characters, quirkiness, strangeness, tone. It has all that shit for you. And the last 30 to 40 minutes of this movie, talk about fucking fun. Oh my goodness. At the end of the day, I gotta say At World's End is my least favorite pirate so far, but still a good movie. Still a good movie. I think I'm going to give it a very strong B, and that's it. Join me next time when we talk about On Stranger Tides. And with that being said, like, comment, subscribe, click that notification bell, let you know when I upload. Have a great day, you glorious bastards.